Alright, so I'm going to show you the E shape of the C major scale. So the cage system, basically the whole idea is that there's 5 chord shapes that can cover the whole neck of the guitar for all the scales and arpeggios and understanding kind of where everything goes, which is really helpful. So the C shape, the A chord shape, the G chord shape, the E chord shape, and a D chord shape. And if you play all 5 of them and move them up, you can get every position to cover all the scales all over the neck. So I've already done the C shape in the first position and all the notes that cover the first 4 frets. Then not the C shape, but the A shape is the next one that we did. That's on the 5th fret. So if you were to have a capo on the 3rd fret and then play an A chord at the 5th fret, you would end up having the C shape in that position covering those 4 frets. Then there is a G chord shape, and if we raise it all the way up to fret 8, capo fret 5, you have a C chord. Although it looks like a G shape to us guitar players. So the next shape is an E chord shape, and if we raise that up all the way until we reach fret 9 and 10, a little E chord but brought up, and if we had a capo clamping down fret 8, then that would be a C chord, although as guitar players we can think of it as E, the E shape. So if you look in here, you can see those notes. So fret 10 is the G on the A string, fret C is fret 10, and then the string below it is fret E on fret 9. And then if you had this capo clamp across the 8th fret, or a bar chord with an E shape, you have a C chord. And then we can build the scale around that. So we can find the letters, we can find the interval numbers, like numbering the scale, the finger numbers to tell us maybe which fingers could work really well to place there, and then the solfege. So let's start by jumping into the finger numbers here. I'm gonna zoom in. So as you can tell, this is covering what we call the 7th position. So our 4 fingers will spider across from the 7th fret. You'll often have a little dot on the 7th fret there. And if your fingers were to go 1 fret at a time, fingers 1, 2, 3, 4, they would be spread across the 7th fret. We're going to catch all the notes in the C major scale right there. So fret 7 is the 1st finger on the big string. Fret 2 is the 8th fret. Finger 4, I think I said the wrong word. One more time. Big string, finger 1, fret 7. Fret 2 on the big string. Fret 4, I'm still saying the wrong word. I'm going to leave my mistakes in here. Where I'm putting out a lot of new content, so this is just like a rough overview, and then things are going to be broken down into small little practice segments. But I wanted to get the concept out here, and subscribe and watch out for some of the new broke down segments here to practice along with. Or reach out, send me a message for an email, and I can show you some tricks on how to break this down and practice it with good repetition and good practice plans. So, big string, fret 7. That's finger 1. Fret 8, that's finger 2. Fret 4, finger 4. Still saying the wrong thing. Fret 10, string below it, fret 7's finger 1. Fret 8, finger 2. Fret 10, finger 4. String below that, finger 1, finger 3 on fret 9, finger 4 on fret 10. Now we're on string G, the 3rd string of the guitar. Finger 1, finger 3, and finger 4. The next string doesn't have a finger that gets played because it's not in the key of C. But we go to finger 2 on fret 8, finger 4, then the small string, finger 1, finger 2, and finger 4. Good practice would be to go in segments, go up and down, and randomize it, like do things at like 5 reps each. It'll start to build this memory in your mind and the muscle memory in in your hands, the familiarity of going there through some experience of repeating things. So let's do the same thing, but this time we'll call the notes by their names. So if you start on fret 7 here, that's the B note on the big string. So we could say B, fret 8, C, fret 10, D, next string over. Fret 7 is E, fret 8 is F, fret 10 is G, fret 7 is A, fret 9 is B, fret 10 is C. Next string, fret 7 D, E, F, next string G, A, small string B, C, and D. Again, this is a quick overview. The blue notes are going to be the notes that are resolved and in harmony and in the chord of C. The green ones are 2 frets away from a chord, the blue notes, and they tend to sound kind of colorful and pretty. The B and F note, those ones are always 1 fret away from a blue note, a note that's in the chord, and they sound really tense. So when you play them, you can, but they're going to be one of the more tense sounds because they're 1 fret away from a blue chord note. So the next thing we can do is we can say the numbers, what we call intervals, on this fretboard chart. So the interval is like the number of the scale. So the first number of the scale, right here, that's our C note. And if we went back, we'd have the 7th number of the scale, 7th note in the scale. So we'll say the 7th note, the first note. So these aren't the fingers, these aren't the frets. We're thinking of lots of different things here. It's intervals. This is the 2nd note of the scale, the 3rd note of the scale, 4th note of the scale, 5th note of the scale, 6th note, 7th. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1, 2. And the significance of this is if you play a chord and someone has a name of a chord, like to play a 5 chord, a 4 chord, like a C5 or a C4 or a C7 or a C6, you can find all the numbers from this scale when they're intervaled or made with numbers of the intervaled numbers of the scale, right? So like if I were to play a C chord and I were to put in a 2nd interval, I'd put in that number 2 to my C chord, and then I have a C add 2. If I put in a C chord with, say, this 4th note, that would be a C with a 4, or we call C sus 4. So knowing these intervals can be really helpful. Whenever we play just blue notes, it tends to sound very resolved and kind of finished. So then the final thing to do is we could say, learn these notes and their names from the solfege. There's a lot of use for knowing them with that sort of musical language. So the first note of the scale is on fret 8 there. That note's called Do. Do, and we could sing it and play it. Do, then Re, Mi, Fa, Sol, La, Ti, Do. Re, Mi, Fa, Sol, La, Ti, Do, and Re. So again, this isn't really a great video necessarily for practicing. It's just an overview of showing you where the notes are. What we just did is each thing once. That would be like going to the football field and throwing the ball once, and that's your practice for the day. Doesn't really help you memorize something. What you want to do is break it into segments, break it into strings, break it into, a group of strings, and then repeat it like 5 times. Go in the same direction 5 times. Go backwards 5 times. Maybe play a game where you just play blue notes or just orange notes or just green notes. You could jam along to a backing track or a friend that can play the chords so you can hear the harmony of whether they're tense or not tense. If they're blue, they're in with the C chord. If they're green, they're colorful. They're we call the twos or the nines or the sixes or the 13s of a chord, or the res or the las, which happen to be the letters in this key of, what are they again? D's and A's. So the blue ones, 1, 3, 5 interval, do, mi, so, solfege, C, E, G notes. It's the note of a C chord, C triad. The greens, these are the pretty or the consonant colors. You could have a chord that's an add 2, add 9, 6, or 13, add in the D or A note. Anything that's really tense is going to be the B or the F. Now, I didn't label those, but a B is like a 7th, and an F would be a 4th. Or I guess if you go above that, you could call it an 11th sometime. So that helps with chord naming and understanding just kind of the mood or the vibe that each color can provide. So this is kind of like a common categorization. If the orange notes are 1 fret away, they're tense. If the green notes are 2 frets away from a chord, they're kind of pretty and consonant and colorful, like a pentatonic scale. The blue notes, they tend to be quite resolved when you play it against a C major chord. So if we start to think of the keys in these colors, it can be a lot easier to categorize than just, and you can see patterns within it, right? You can see the word bead. You can see B and F making a straight line. You can see an E chord shape in there. The A's and D's tend to be beside each other. There's just different ways to start seeing the fretboard, seeing patterns within it. And it's really musically applicable because you often want to know when you're in or out of harmony. And if you color code it like this and start knowing where you are through fun games or through jamming and improvising, or even just kind of exercises, singing up and down, then it starts to make it really familiar, and then you're really comfortable with it, like learning a language. You can write songs, you can improvise so much with so much more confidence because you kind of know when you're in or out of harmony, and you know where the notes are. You can find those in and out of harmonies all over the fretboard. So we start with the C shape position, the A shape position, the G shape position, the E shape, and that spelt the word caged. And it's quite a cool little system. When I first learned it, it totally opened things up for me with guitar and being able to find notes that fit, using my ear, but also using a little bit of theoretical knowledge, which got a lot more applicable through making exercises and fretboard charts and jamming along with them like this. But it's kind of hard to do all on your own. So if you're finding this challenging, or if you want some tips on how to break this down, send me an email and I'm happy to book in a lesson with you. I've got a few spots right now, but they're going fast. Yeah, send me a message. Thanks, guys. Have fun. Like, share, subscribe, share with your friends. Every little bit helps to get this out there, and then I can condense it down to even more content and show you guys more how you can really break this down and practice it and apply it to your own playing. I've got lots of fun games and ways of tips on making music. So thanks. Again, I'm Lance from Make Music Here and Lava Guitar Lessons. Have fun.